Welcome to Dom's Corner, everybody. I am your host, Dom Martino, and here sitting with me today is Adam Leach. Once again, Adam, how are you today?
I'm not too bad. I woke up with some allergies, so I'm a little sneezy. But other than that,
That's always the best. I love allergies. They really make my day.
that's what happens when you got two cats running around the house.
My cat, I was never allergic to cats when I was younger, and then it wasn't until I became an adult that I started becoming allergic to my cat. So I don't know what happens, but
It happens.
something happens to your allergies or your immune system, more or less, when you get older. But anyway, so we are gonna talk about Return of the Jedi, and guys, as always, if you like the content here today, hit that like button below, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends. Really helps out a lot. Another thing I want to say is that we've been doing a really bad job keeping it up, but all the episodes of Dom's Corner, I think with the exception of one or two, are on Spotify now. So all the Star Wars reviews are on Spotify, and also now you can find it on Amazon Music as well. And next, I'm going to be looking into getting it up on Apple Podcasts. So just a few cool things there for you guys to check out. So anyway, Adam, I think we both have rewatched Return of the Jedi. I know we were both really looking forward to this movie. So let's review this. As always, I'm going to let you start. What are your overall thoughts?
Well, right off the bat, I obviously like it. And I told you I was excited to watch this one because it had been a little while. And I never am really 100% sure how I rank the original trilogy. I've kind of gone back and forth a little bit. I know most people say Empire is their favorite, and for a while I thought it was my favorite too. But when we rewatched these recently, I was kind of like, I'm not really sure what my favorite is. But I went into this knowing that in the past I had really liked Return of the Jedi. So I went into it thinking, maybe rewatching it again for the first time in several years, maybe it'll end up being my favorite one. And it seems like that actually is the case. I think this is actually my favorite of the trilogy, surprisingly. I mean, we'll dive into it, but just a quick explanation why is that it does a good job of holding your attention. There's just a lot that happens. It's entertaining, and also this was the most impactful one that I watched as a kid. I remember the most memories from this one. From me being a kid, I watched this one probably more than the other two. So I have a lot of memories and stuff tied to this one. So for that reason, I'm probably a little biased, but I just think this one, it's got a lot of action. It's got a lot of cool stuff. So, I know some people have beef with it, and that's up to you, but I think this is my favorite.
Yeah. So interestingly enough for me, I think that when I was a kid as well, this was also my favorite growing up, and then as I got older, I started to like it a little bit less, and Empire a little bit more, and Empire and New Hope both more than this as I got older. But it's, again, I think you said, we talked about how this is the one we've definitely watched the least. Both of you felt that way for some reason, and so I was really looking forward to revisiting it. I remember as a kid, though, and I don't know why, and I might be wrong, but I swear I've always had this memory of somebody taking me to a movie theater to watch this one upon like a re-release that they did. And so I feel like I have seen this one in a movie theater, but it was just so long ago. But yeah, like I said, as a kid, it was one of my favorite ones. Before I get into my overall thoughts, I'll go ahead and do my little merchandise show and tell here real quick. So this one, I also had the soundtrack for. I have the original VHS tape, and I own the Steelbook. And I forgot to grab it, but I have the 4K sitting around here somewhere too. So, just my little show and tell there. So, I rewatched this movie, and unlike you, I actually found myself liking this one significantly less than I have in the past. I don't dislike this movie. I still like it overall, but I actually found myself liking it significantly less than I have in the past. I think that it has a lot of pacing issues. I think it has a lot of tonal issues as well. But that's, tonal issues are obviously more of a matter of opinion, and well, so is pacing. I mean, it really just kind of comes down to you, and maybe even possibly the mood you're in when you're watching it. And I don't know if that factored into my viewing it as well, because I was fairly tired when I had to cram this in last night. So, but either way, I did find myself liking it significantly less, especially watching it through the eyes of, I got to review this tomorrow, and that's kind of how I was thinking when I was watching it. So let's dive into it. So the opening crawl happens, and I got to say, it is one of the best written opening crawls. I'll go ahead and say that. I really love the way the opening crawl is written. I think it takes everything that happened in the prior movie and carries it on over. It's like, yes, we're gonna see what happened to Han, and we're gonna have all that kind of going on, and there's a plan to get him out. And then we kind of go into Vader on on the whatchamajigger. He's on the second Death Star yet? Is he? At this point, he's on like a starfighter, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I can't remember where we first see him.
Yeah, I don't think he's reached. Well, no. He did reach the second Death Star. My bad. He's at the second Death Star when we start out, because
because the Emperor is coming.
Right. He says that the Emperor is going to arrive. I like this stuff. I think that this scene's really good. And then we move along into Jabba's palace. What's that? Go ahead.
He says to the one guy, I laugh when I hear it, because he's like, the Emperor is not as forgiving as I am. And I'm thinking, dude, you choke out everybody you see.
I was like, it's funny to me because we don't really actually see the Emperor interact with any of these people when he arrives. He just kind of goes his own way. And so it's like Vader's just kind of using this as an intimidation tactic, and pretty much. But I do enjoy the moment quite a bit on the second Death Star in the beginning. And then we move into 3PO and R2 are back on Tatooine. Always nice to be back on Tatooine. Then they're going to go to Jabba's palace, which this is all going to be a part of the plan to get Han out. So they go to Jabba's palace. Now, the eyeball thing that pops out really cracks me up when 3PO's like, oh, goodness gracious me. It really cracks me up. I actually find that scene to be pretty funny. But then we get into Jabba's palace. And Adam, I have a feeling you really enjoyed this stuff, so go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, actually, surprisingly, the bits with Jabba are some of my favorite moments in the trilogy. Just because, you see a lot of cool creatures, a lot of different stuff. There's different dialects, and there's just a lot of diversity in it. It's fun to watch. It feels new, it feels fresh, even though I've seen it a million times. I find it entertaining. We talked about how Jabba isn't necessarily our favorite character. I'll sit on you.
Right.
But I don't know, the palace scene, and then going to the Sarlacc pit and everything. Those are some of my favorite moments in Star Wars. And in fact, when I think of the original trilogy, usually that's one of the first memories that pops into my head is those scenes. They're very enjoyable. They're cool, and they're just iconic. So I enjoy them.
All right, backing up from before the Sarlacc pit, the entire Jabba's palace sequence. For myself, I can't say I enjoyed it as much. I feel. I feel that the mission to go get Han actually should have been a lot more epic. I don't know why we spent so much. I mean, obviously Jabba was the one that was going to have him, and that made sense. I just feel like it should have been a more epic mission. R2 and 3PO just, I mean, they just kind of slide right into this place, and then we have this whole, I mean, I don't hate all of it. It's just that there are so many moments we're waiting forever, I feel like, for something to happen, and I feel like this coming off of the coattails of Empire, we should have had a much more epic beginning here and opening to go get Han. Not that it doesn't turn into something epic, because it does. I mean, when we're talking about like the stuff around the Sarlacc pit, it definitely does. But before that, I feel like, okay, so then Leia's coming into it, right? She's coming in with Chewie. I genuinely feel like that we should have had a moment with Leia and Chewie walking in beforehand, just to pace it out a little bit better. I definitely feel like it would have made us care a little bit more about, her coming in. And I understand it was supposed to be a twist that, she she takes off the helmet and it's Leia. I understand what they were going for there. I just have a hard time getting behind it, because it's kind of a bad twist anyway when I think about it more, because basically she's kind of sneaking around at night, right by where Han is frozen in carbonite. So you should be able to figure out that it's Leia anyway. So I just wish we had a scene with Leia and Chewie kind of coming up with the plan. I actually think that would have worked out a lot better, but that's just my opinion.
I personally, I remember watching this for the first time and not knowing that it was Leia.
Yeah, but you were like 5. Young. I was insane.
Right. Right, I know, but I guess I disagree with you there, because I'm fine with it being a surprise, because when I did watch it for the first time, it was a surprise. We've watched it a million times, so surprises aren't going to be surprises anymore. But, at the time, of course, I didn't have an issue with it. I've never really had an issue with it since. I don't know. I just thought the way they started out the beginning of the movie, to me, it made sense how they paced it going into there. I know I've had issues with pacing in the past, but I don't know. I personally don't have any issues with pacing going into this movie. I feel like it feels fine to me. In fact, I like the pacing better than I like the pacing in Empire, because there were a lot of parts in Empire that were just at the very beginning where there's a lot of stuff that has to happen and it just chop, 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 chop. And in this one, I didn't feel that quite as much, probably because there wasn't a billion screen wipes, but I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I'll give you that. The screen wipes are pretty good in this. They do a perfect amount.
There's a couple screen wipes in this movie later on that I'm like, I wish they would just take those out, because that's part of what makes the pacing feel really weird. It feels, every time they use a screen wipe, it kind of feels lazy. Like they're like, we don't know how to get from here to here, so we're just gonna wipe it.
Yeah. But still, compared to the prequels, it's much better. Even outside of the little, the helmet twist, which is a very minute problem to me, compared to some of the other problems that I have. The animation going over, when I understand it's not we don't have they didn't have the CGI we have now, but I'll make another point about that later. To help further my argument here, but the CGI that's going off of, when Han's coming out of the carbonite, I think is just atrocious. I think it's and it just goes on way too long. Like we're shooting that moment of the carbonite, melting way too long, in my opinion. Oh my God, don't even get me started. By the way, just to give the scene a little praise, the way that Harrison Ford acts, coming out of the carbonite, like he really feels like he's somebody who's been in carbonite for a long time. So I want to give credit where credit's due here, because he does a good job. The other thing is, don't even get me started, and I know it wasn't in the original cut, but we are going to review the definitive version of this film. The musical number with the fucking Muppets, like, don't even get me started on it.
Yeah, it's weird.
I can't stand it. I was watching this, like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like when I was a kid, maybe I enjoyed that, but now it's...
I've always kind of thought that scene was a little weird. And now when I watched it, I've seen it enough to where now when I watch it, I just kind of laugh. Like, I don't really care. It's just it's weird. It's weird to the point where it just makes me laugh at it, and I'm like, oh, whatever.
I really can't stand
George had to put that in there.
He did. That entire number's added by George. And then like,
Thank you.
yeah, really. I mean, but even in the original cut, the scene wasn't very good. So I don't know. I don't know why he had to go and fuck it up even further, because it's not a great scene in the beginning. I think you have like the oh, I don't, the Twi'lek or whatever. She's dancing around, I think, in the original cut, if I'm not mistaken. But, which, by the way, that's one thing I like about this compared to the original cut, is if you actually watch the original cut, like, it needs a fucking cleanup, like a remaster. So I'm glad that we at least have that in the definitive version. And then you got, like, I like Han and Chewie meeting reuniting again. I like, Lando being there and undercover. And then like he captures Leia, and then he's got her in this bikini type thing, which is fine, I guess. I understand that. But again, it's like it's Jabba. You were kind of saying this earlier. Like nobody can take this guy down. I mean, I understand you got Boba Fett there and all that kind of stuff, but it's just ridiculous. Like, and I feel like you could have saved a lot of time, and this might be even an even bigger problem to me. Is like later when we're near the Sarlacc pit, Luke is, like taking out people like left and right. Like I feel like you could have saved a lot of time had he just come in earlier and done all this. But whatever. But he comes in, and then which by the way, Mark Hamill's acting, this is probably the best we've seen thus far in terms of
Yeah,
what we've reviewed.
he has decent acting in this movie.
It's pretty good.
I have always had issues with Luke's character and how I don't know, his attitude, his lines are portrayed. But I feel like this one is probably the least problematic acting wise.
Yeah. He feels very evolved in this movie, which I really enjoy. Very involved, very evolved. And you can really tell that he's, coming to his way, and he's a far different character than we met in the original A New Hope. Anyway, so let's move into the Sarlacc pit.
I was gonna say there's a line that Han says in this.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
When he says, like, because they're talking about Luke being a Jedi Knight, and he's like, a Jedi. He's like, I'm gone for a little while, and everybody gets delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, that is a good line. The other one I was going to point out from Han is what was he? He says, Luke, how we doing? He's like, same as always. That bad, huh?
That bad, huh? Yeah. There's lines. Always good Han dialogue.
It's true.
You can always count on that.
Yeah, this one definitely has the least amount of great Han dialogue. Still some pretty good stuff in there, though.
Yeah, there aren't as many, like, there aren't quite as many classic Han lines, but there are a lot of classic, iconic lines in this movie overall.
Yeah.
In general.
And a lot of that is, is because, just for behind the scenes trivia, is because Harrison wanted to die in this movie. Like, he wanted Han to die. He was pretty much over it. So, they definitely kept his part a little more minimal in this film for sure. He was just pretty much over it by the time. Still gives a good performance as Han. Just I think he didn't want to have as big a part of it. He just felt it would have been better if his character died. So moving into the Sarlacc pit. So they're on this, I guess, a skiff type deal. So they're moving through the skiff. I don't know about you. I was looking at the sand around them, and I'm thinking that sand does not look right. Like, it looks like clay. Like, it's really bad animation, which I don't know. Whatever.
I didn't pay much attention because honestly, I stopped kind of paying attention because a lot of in general, in all three of these movies, there's a lot of animations and stuff that is just god awful.
I'll tell you, this one has the most.
I don't find this one worse than the other two because there's a lot of crap in the previous two that I had issues with that I didn't even feel like bringing up just because it's water under the bridge. But that's what happens when you got an old movie. I mean, it's bound to happen.
I just find this one to be. I feel like they use a significant significantly less practical effects in this one. That's how I felt, and I felt like they went a little overboard with the CGI on this, or the special effects. I mean,
Now, was everything originally practical? Did they add in a bunch of CG,
no,
or was
this
it
movie
always?
started out like that. Yeah, like George adds a bunch of CG in A New Hope for sure. Not as much in Empire, but still he definitely added some to Empire. This one, if you watch it, it's already there. So like I'm gonna go ahead and just say that it's
I
been an
think
issue
part
from the
of that
beginning.
also though is that this movie has the most action. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie. So I feel like it probably to him it probably would have been a bigger burden to do practical effects with everything
Yeah,
just because of all of the different scenery and all of the different action sequences and stuff like that. So he probably just got a little lazy with it because
yeah.
I will say that it's a give and take. Because of all the action and stuff you're cramming into the movie, you do get some effect issues. But at the same time, because they crammed all that into this movie, that's actually why I like to watch it because, I had told you previously, A New Hope was one of my least favorite to watch because I would actually get bored
Hmm.
and I didn't feel that this last time I watched it. I actually really enjoyed it. It had been a long time since I'd seen it, so but Empire even there are moments in Empire where I kind of get bored, and that's just kind of me when I watch really old movies a lot of times, even movies that I really like, because of the technology differences, a lot of times I will get a little bit bored, more bored than I would with a newer movie, even if a new movie is bad, like at least the visuals are so in your face that you just can't help but to stare at it. But, a lot of old movies in general um, can struggle to hold my attention, and I feel despite some of the issues with this one, because
Hmm.
there is so much happening, it does a good job of actually retaining my attention.
Okay. Um, I think the sand thing was a big deal to me because we've used practical sand every other time previously, and this is like the one time they didn't, and it was just, and maybe it was because they were moving the skiff through it or whatever, and maybe they had, I don't know, but for whatever
Well, they were
reason,
also kind of hovering over the sand.
yeah, for whatever reason, they
So
just couldn't go
I'll have to
with,
go back and watch it. I wasn't paying attention, I guess. I'll have
yeah,
to check that out. But I mean, it was probably because rather than having a scene where they're actually standing on the sand,
mm,
they were actually hovering over the sand. So
yeah,
they might have just done it on a set because it would have been too hard to do
yeah,
that in a real location at the time. That would
yeah.
be my guess, but I don't know.
I don't know, it just felt really jarring to me watching it, but um we're going through near the Starlight Pit. The whole plan is for Luke to jump off the diving board. For some reason, this has a diving board on
It's
it.
going off the high dive.
It looks like a diving board. I know it's supposed to be like a plank, like walk the plank, but looks more like a diving board here. So he's supposed to go off the diving board, and now and then yeah, so he does this whole little jump and flip thing, and then R2 shoots out the saber, and oh my god, we're watching a Star Wars movie. This is to me where it really starts to get exciting and awesome. Luke, I mean, okay, so I want everybody to take note. Like Luke is really awesome in this scene, and he's doing a lot of really cool stuff. But everybody, please take note that Luke is not doing anything compared to what we'd seen Jedi do in the prequel trilogy. I'm going to use that later on in a different podcast for a different point. But I just want people to take note of that he is definitely not doing anything incredible. It's good, it's awesome, and he's, but it's not anything insanely advanced. Anyway, so but yeah, I think you were saying that already that you love this moment, and I'll go ahead and get your point on this.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I always have liked this scene. I don't know, it's just cool. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of action. For a Star Wars movie, with the differences in how movies were made and technology and everything. It seems a little more advanced in terms of fighting and stuff than what we're used to at times. So I enjoy watching it, and that's kind of what I've been talking about this whole time of why. I had talked about how I kind of rate movies on two different scales, and some people get mad at me for it. But I think there are scales of there are scales of what movie is actually the best, like production wise and how it's made. And there are scales of what movie you think is best based on your opinion of how it's made, and also your biases come into play. And then there are scales of what movie is actually fun to watch and holds up and stuff like that. And that's where you get discrepancies because of Star Wars being so iconic and being so old. We remember it based on biased emotions that we hold to it, and that's why I'm not surprised when I see younger people talk about how they like newer movies more than older movies, because it's only natural, because the technology is just so different. So,
Yeah.
you were talking about how the stuff Luke is doing, it doesn't hold a candle compared to what the Jedi are doing in the prequels or in the sequels, because that was just different. The
Yeah.
choreography was different, the special effects they were able to pull off was different.
I wasn't
um
saying that's a problem to me though, by the way, because it's not.
right.
Yeah, but go ahead.
And
Go ahead.
but I think we have to remember that when other people, especially younger people who have maybe watched like the newer ones first, and they talk about liking those more. um I think everybody has to we all have our own opinions, but I understand, because to somebody that doesn't have an emotional attachment to the movies, you're gonna see is, hey, this movie looks really good and this one looks old and has weird effect issues and the fighting is kind of lame. And that's how a younger crowd is gonna feel about older movies like this. It's inevitable. To us, we've got all these feelings and these biased memories and opinions attaching us to it, and there are things about it that make it great, and the fact that it did pave the way for a lot of the newer stuff to happen. But watching it from a 21st century perspective, you can look back on it and think of weird stuff like, hey, that sand looks weird, and
Mm.
hey, I know this is supposed to be epic, but it's not quite as epic as it could have been. And, that's just something that happens with old
Mm.
movies. But, we love them anyway because they're iconic and they paved the way.
I don't know. I mean, all I'll say is I didn't feel this way watching New Hope and Empire, though, and those are even older than this one.
Oh, I definitely did.
I did not.
I definitely did. All three of these movies are just old. The effects are weird. I mean, it even comes down to how they close doors in spaceships, which they actually did a better job of in this one. Somehow they figured it out. But like in A New Hope, and I think even Empire, you see like it looks like they recorded a door slowly closing, and then they like fast forwarded the tape so the door's like like it looks really unnatural. Like there are really simple things like that we don't think about now because we have the technology, but at the time, it was advanced to do
Mm.
stuff like that, so it looks weird going back on it now. And I don't know, to me the whole trilogy as a whole, it has a lot of old weird stuff like that, but I just think of it like it's an old movie, you're gonna get it, I
Yeah.
guess. And maybe this movie has more of that. I don't know. I guess I was not paying as close attention. The more I watch these movies, the less I pay attention to stuff like that, because if I try and point it out, I'm going to drive myself crazy.
Mm. Okay. Um. So I don't disagree with you on the old movie point, though. By the way, like I get what you're saying. It's just, to me, like I didn't have had nearly as many problems in terms of the effects with New Hope and Empire. That's just myself personally, or it didn't stick out to me, whatever way they shot the effects, or whatever approach
Maybe
was
we should
taken.
watch them backwards.
Maybe.
That would be an interesting thing to do, because I feel like it's only natural when you review movies. Sometimes when you watch them in an order like that, it kind of influences how you watch it.
Yeah.
So I wonder what would happen if we like watched all of these movies like completely in reverse.
It'd be interesting.
and see if maybe how our memory of the last one would change. But
Hmm.
I don't know.
Never
That's
thought to
because
do
I
that.
mean, nobody ever watches 6, 5, 4. That's just unnatural. But now I'm kind of curious. I'd like to watch 6 and then 5 and then 4, and really see if I notice, if I still like, especially you, if you still think there are more problems with number 6, or if because 5 and 4 are the most recent ones you watched, if you notice more things that you have issues with than you did before.
There is the scissor order. You could always do that.
That's too intense.
I can't remember how that actually goes. I think it's New Hope,
Yeah.
then Empire, and then once he says, "Luke, I am your father," you're supposed to go back and watch Revenge of the Sith. And
It's too much work.
it's a whole thing, man. um. Anyway, but the one thing I will point out that the sand around the Sarlacc pit is real. Like, I did notice that they use practical sand here, and I was happy about that. And one of the funny lines, by the way, is when Lando's almost about to get into the Sarlacc pit, and he's like, "I thought you were blind," because Han's trying to help him, and Han's just like, "I can see much better now." It cracks me up. I love these
you ain't
two.
pointing that thing at me.
I
think it's funny when Luke is about to jump up and start fighting, and and one of the lines that he says in this movie that is kind of cheesy that I always laugh at is he looks at Jabba and he says, "Free us or die," and then Jabba like laughs, and I'm like, yeah, I would laugh too. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Well, it's look at this kid.
like, look at, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're on a freaking diving board about to high dive into a sand pit. Like,
Luke's not actually the one that ended up killing him. Is what's kind of funny about that. It's Leia who ended up choking him out. The other thing that's hysterical is Boba Fett, where? He's like looking all around with the stick, and then he hits Boba Fett in the jetpack, and I think it's hysterical and it works really well. I just think that Boba Fett's a useless character for that reason alone.
I think it's funny that there are so many people that are so like religiously attached to Boba Fett.
I know,
and it's like the one time we think we're gonna get some real action out of Boba Fett in this movie, dude, he gets spanked. He gets spanked. Like, he goes down without a fight.
It's just funny. It was such an accident. It's like the biggest threat on this thing. Like, Han took down like with an accident. That cracks me up. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I think that actually really works. Though it's one of the more humorous scenes in the movie to me. So they escape, and then they blow up Jabba's, entire thing there, and no more Jabba the Hutt, which is actually one of the cool things I will say about this is the book. It's a canon novel, Bloodline by Claudia Gray. Dude, you got to read this book. It's awesome. But there's this planet that Leia visits, and of course it takes place after Return of the Jedi, and there's a planet that she visits, and they actually Jabba the Hutt at one point tortured this planet and was really bad toward this planet when he was alive. So they it's kind of cool because they look at Princess Leia as the savior, of their planet, because they call her Hutt Slayer throughout the entire thing. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, just a fun little tidbit. But moving on. So that they go out, and then Luke's going back to Dagobah, and I don't understand something though. I'd have to look back into the canon stuff, but I don't understand, because Luke is saying that he has a promise to keep to an old friend. And it feels like they're trying to refer to the promise that he would come back in Empire, but I feel like he's had to have gone back to Dagobah between Empire and this movie already quite a few times. Right?
Well,
I'm not saying I have a problem with it necessarily. I'm just trying to figure out.
You would think so, right?
Yeah, because he had to train as a Jedi. I always get confused about that. It's did he go back to Dagobah to do that, or did he just take what he learned in those few days and work on himself? I don't know. For all that time elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't know, because he clearly has training between these movies. Obviously, he has to. Which is also what's weird is that these movies, I don't know how much time actually passed between 5 and 6, but they make it feel like a lot of time hasn't passed because Han is still in carbonite, like he's still chilling in there. So however much time has passed, he's been stuck in this block of carbon this entire
Well, he
time.
definitely has
But
been for years, I would say.
and that like it kind of blows my mind, like
Yeah.
if years have gone by and they've just kind of like Hanna's just frozen in this freaking block, and like
Hmm.
Leia is in love with him, and she can't see him for years. Like I don't know. So I don't know. Maybe years did go by. In that case, I think it's kind of, I don't know. It's
There's
kind of
a
it feels kind of weird, but
there's definitely a definitive answer to whether Luke went back to Dagobah or not, because it's in canon. I know it is because I know it's in some of the comics and stuff, but I just can't remember. But on the same hand, that also can't be the case because Luke is also asking Yoda here if Darth Vader is his father, and if he'd been back to Dagobah multiple times, then wouldn't he have asked that question already, or did he just want to wait on it?
yeah, I mean, it feels like he hasn't been back
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. Um, but in that case, it's like, well, where's he been training? And once again, how much time has gone by? It has to be quite a bit. And why hasn't he gone back to Dagobah if that much time has gone by?
Yeah.
Because he's clearly had training. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you think about how fast he's progressed. Like Jedi would traditionally, I mean, it takes years. It takes a big chunk of their life to become, mastered in this thing. And he gets pretty good pretty quickly. So I don't know. I wonder about what happens in that
Mm-hmm.
gap. Like, how does he train? Where does he train? Why doesn't he go back to Dagobah if it has been years? And if it hasn't been years, which it doesn't feel like it's been years, if it really hasn't, then how did he get that freaking good that quick?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm not gonna say I have an issue with it because I'm sure there's definitive answers for this stuff out here. But
I
uh,
just realized I took notes on something.
yeah.
So actually, before this, we missed something.
What?
Before this, the Emperor arrives at the new Death Star, and he gets out of his ship.
Oh, that's right.
And
That's right.
I just made a note that I liked that scene. I liked how all the stormtroopers were lined up, and it seemed really epic. Like they were all waiting for him to get off the ship. And I had a spelling error. I wrote down storm strippers instead of stormtroopers.
How'd you manage that?
I don't know. So anyway, storm strippers. I like that scene with all the storm strippers lined up.
Yeah, I do too. I really do. And the Emperor's coming down with his Praetorian guards, and I do like the moment. I think him and Darth Vader they have a really good exchange of dialogue here, and yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff for sure. The other really good exchange of dialogue though is moving ahead. Unless you had anything more to say about that one, no.
No,
Okay. Moving back into Dagobah, it's another really good exchange of dialogue. Is I think that Luke and Yoda's lines are pretty awesome. I find it kind of funny that like I feel like Family Guy had to parody this a little bit. Like he just keeps kind of getting back up and going, Luke, like you think he's gonna die, and then Luke's just kind of sitting there like, okay, will you die already and quit delivering these damn blows to me? Like these are like, this is like really bad news you keep waking up to give me.
I know. I love it. I also I like Yoda's line when he says something like, uh, when 900
yeah,
years old you are, look as good you will not.
exactly. That is a good line. The other one was, I mean, the one of the, when gone am I, the last of the Skywalker, you will be. I actually really think that's a cool line.
Yeah, he says, pass on what you have
Pass
learned.
on what you've learned. Yeah,
And
exactly. Really good.
and with the new movies and everything, that sort of, it takes on a whole new
Yeah,
meaning.
come on. Like, exactly. I definitely agree with that. Like, there's just this gives more of a point to the sequel trilogy. And I know everybody likes to pick on them and go, what was the point of those? Here you go. I mean, it's kind of all planted here.
There is a point.
Listen, guys. I
I
mean,
feel like there's almost less of an issue between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy than there is between the prequels and the original trilogy, because there are some things that feel like they don't necessarily line up with the originals and the prequels that they kind of decided to tweak that don't quite line up. But I think the sequels feel like they go pretty well with the
yeah,
original trilogy.
yeah.
There aren't a lot of discrepancies. There are a lot of casual references that
Mm-hmm.
you can connect.
I agree 100%. Um, then he goes. Luke leaves the hut, and then he goes out there, and he sees Obi-Wan's Force ghost, and Obi-Wan sits down with them and tries to justify why he was lying to him in the original or in the first New Hope. Um, and I do like the line from a certain point of view. It's a really good line. I mean, he's not wrong, because Anakin Skywalker did die from a certain point of view. And he ceased to be Anakin Skywalker, and became Darth Vader. But let's be honest, he was fucking lying to Luke the entire time. Uh, it's a really fancy way of saying, yeah, I kind of lied to you.
I mean, everybody had to lie. The Emperor had to lie to Vader.
Yeah, but it was all good for a good cause. I mean, it's all to protect Luke and Leia, which is what he's explaining here.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that they didn't tell Luke and Leia to protect them, and the Emperor also didn't tell Vader they existed for different but different but similar reasons. So it's kind of funny that both the dark and the light side for once kind of had the same motive. They were like, yeah, we're just not going to mention this.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. So they're sitting on the log. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool that, by the way, and I guess I never really thought of it before, but like, Alec Guinness, was so hesitant to do that original Star Wars movie, but he ended up staying for all three of these, so he's been able to make appearances in all three. Oh, something else I want to bring up. We didn't bring this up in the beginning. Just important to note that this one also not directed by George Lucas or Irvin Kershner. This is Richard Marquand's movie, and I always find the stories about the behind the scenes of this one to be really interesting. Like, I know at one point, like, David Lynch was supposed to do this one. I'm still very interested to see what a David Lynch Star Wars movie would look like. I don't know if I would want it to happen necessarily, but just for my own curiosity, I would like to know what a David Lynch Star Wars movie would be like. I'm sure it'd be 1,000 times more bizarre than this one already was at times.
Probably.
Yeah. So it seems like George was trying to hire somebody who would go in a slightly more bizarre direction, but
I was gonna say real quick, unrelated to that, I just thought of something that I wanted to bring up. We were talking about not mentioning Luke and Leia. I guess here's a question: if the Emperor knew, if he knows that Luke and Leia exist, why didn't he tell Vader that they existed, and why didn't they try to capture them as children so that they could raise them? Like, that would make more sense than waiting this whole time and taking the risk of exactly what happened, what ended up happening, taking that risk of that happening. Why wouldn't the Emperor be like, okay, this is his offspring, they could very likely be similarly powerful as him. Why don't I try and take them and raise them in the dark side? And then you have just like a freaking powerful three-headed beast. Like, why not?
I have a genuine answer to this, like, and this isn't just me trying to defend the films of my childhood. This is a genuine, like, answer to this is that honestly, I think that the Emperor is all about timing. I also think that he understands where Vader is emotionally as well at all times, and I think that if he told him any earlier that maybe the Emperor didn't feel that Vader was ready emotionally to hear that his children were still out there, and that like, because like Vader is and we know how he is. He's a loose cannon. I think that the Emperor always kind of knew that Vader could overthrow him if he wanted to, and I don't think that the Emperor wanted that to happen, especially at the time that it did. I think that the Emperor was working on a lot more things. I mean, obviously, he had time to go have grandbabies and things. So, I think that there was just a lot of things that he was trying to get to align in order to make his plans work. I think, and in terms of, especially even in terms of his contingency plan, I think that if Vader was going to overthrow him, it shouldn't have been till later. And yeah, I just think that, Vader wouldn't have been ready for it emotionally, to take on a task like that. I think that, Vader, a lot of this is revealed in the canon stuff, but like Vader, even in the beginning of his, and you see it at the end of Revenge of the Sith too, is like in the beginning of his, ruling as Vader, I suppose, he's still very much attached to the idea of Padme, you know what I mean? And so if the Emperor knew his kids were out there and like, wasn't, I don't know, it basically like, it would tear Vader up emotionally, and he would, instead of doing things, and the other thing that they were working on, is the Emperor was still trying to hunt down the rest of the Jedi. So he wanted Vader's help with that as well. He gave Vader the Inquisitor army. So there was just a lot of things that the Emperor needed to get done first, I feel like. And I feel like anything else would have been a distraction to Vader, in terms of the tasks that he was supposed to be taking on at the time. That's just my feeling on that.
I still just feel like it would have made more sense if I'm the Emperor.
Uh-huh.
And I know I've got this ridiculously powerful dude that I'm training, and he's got 2 kids, and there's a chance that these kids could be just as powerful as him. And emotionally unstable or not, like, the Emperor is very important to Anakin at the point where he's crossing over to Vader. I mean, the Emperor is really the only thing that he's got, so he's going to listen to him. It would have made sense to me if I'm the Emperor to maybe don't tell Vader, but send out a search party and try and find his kids without him knowing, and try and find them to either kill them or capture them, because you always have loose ends, and he wants to get rid of all the Jedi and everything like that. And it would have made sense, like, well, I know that these 2 kids are out there, and in the off chance that this could come back and bite me in the butt, let's either get rid of them or let me take them under my wing and raise them, and then, take them from where they are and bring them, and then tell Vader, like, your children survived the birth, and I found them, and we're going to train them. And it makes sense to me, because then we're talking about raising people from being children. I mean, you're instilling evil in people from the moment that they're babies. Like, that, you would think somebody like the Emperor would be all over that. Like, oh, I've got these people that are potentially very powerful, and I get to plant this evil seed in their brains from the very beginning. Like, that's a very powerful thing. So I don't know. Not that I'm upset that it didn't happen either way. This was just a theoretical question. Because if this were real life and I were the Emperor, that's exactly what I would have done. I would have sent out a search party. I would have tried to find these kids, and I would have trained them just like I trained Vader. And I would have just like 3 complete dark side badasses under my wing and just slay the galaxy.
I just think it's all a part of the plan. I think that it's all a part of the game that he's trying to play. And yeah, I don't know.
Well, he clearly played the wrong game because he lost.
Did he, though?
I mean, kind of.
He lost some, but not entirely. Let's move into... Okay, so we're still on Dagobah. So yeah, Obi-Wan reveals that Luke and Leia are brother and sister. Then I like that they're all back at the base. The rebels are. We have this is the first time we see Mon Mothma and Admiral Akbar. two pretty cool rebel characters in this series, for sure. They're talking about Han basically taking an Imperial ship into into Endor to take down the shields for this second Death Star. That's a dumb move, by the way, by the Emperor, is to build a second Death Star that looks about the same as the first one they had. That's probably one of the dumber moves, to be honest with you, from the Emperor.
It's not even freaking finished yet, and they're already inside it. Like, I'm thinking this is like the equivalent of what this is. Yeah. You've got the president. You've got the president, right? And you've got basically the president and the VP, and that is the Emperor and Darth Vader. And you have their Death Star, which is essentially the White House, except for you've got it in the middle of nowhere with a possible war zone around you. And basically, you've got the back end blown off the White House. It's completely exposed. And you're saying, no, it's okay for our leaders to be inside there. It's fine. They can chill in there. I'm thinking, really? The thing's floating in the middle of space. The whole backside is exposed. It's not even finished yet. And you're already going to send, like, your two most powerful people are both in the same structure, which is not finished. It's just a very bad move. You don't take that chance.
They were relying on those shields, man. They were relying on the shields, and they didn't think that.
Really relying on them.
They didn't think they'd get clearance codes to land on the forest moon of Endor, man. They just
didn't think they'd destroy the first Death Star, but they did now, didn't they?
Yeah, but they had an inside man on that job. That's why that happened.
Say they didn't have an inside man on this job.
They had some source. He doesn't know
that.
They had some source.
Right. I'm just thinking, after getting burned so bad the first time, if I'm the Emperor, I'm being like, hell nah, I'm not getting on that death trap until it's finished, because last time it was finished, and it still got fried, and I'm not going to be on it when it happens.
That's why they're on it, man, because it's not getting finished quick enough, so they have to get the workers motivated. by motivated, I mean shocked and electrocuted and choked out. That's
choked out. I'm gonna choke everybody. Anyway, something I thought was funny was, so when they're doing their little strategy and they're talking about what they're gonna do, and they're like, I'm with you. And then out of nowhere, Luke walks in the room, and it just feels really cheesy. Yeah. Out of nowhere, Luke walks in, like, I'm with you too. And it's like, oh, Luke. And it's like classic cheesy movie moment.
Yeah, I was okay with it.
He just happens to walk in at the perfect time. And like, do you even know what we're talking about? You just walked in on this meeting. Do you know what you're in with?
It has that effect to it, to where it's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but
it's just one of those weird things that happens in movies sometimes, and you're just like, that was kind of cheesy.
Yeah, I like that Leia's like, what's wrong? Tell me. Ask me again sometime, or whatever he said. It's just. So yeah, then Luke's with them too, and then they're going out. They're going to Endor. By the way, Endor is one of the coolest planets in this whole thing. I'll get that out of the way right now, for sure.
Oh, and they get on the Imperial ship, and it's and Chewie is like really tall.
Oh yeah,
and he's complaining. So Han's like, yeah, well, I don't think the Empire had Wookiees in mind when they designed her, Chewie.
By the way, you know what I realized now that you just mentioned that? We never actually brought this up when we were talking about A New Hope. But that stormtrooper that clunked his head against the...
Oh, yeah!
We never talked about that for some reason.
No, we didn't. We totally forgot about that. That's a classic.
Yeah, I just thought of it when he said Chewie was too tall for the ship. It's like, yeah.
I meant to bring that up, and I totally forgot
about me too. I think, that's the classic moment. Find that on YouTube, guys, if you haven't noticed it before, but it's hysterical. Remember the Snoke theories? Everybody thought that stormtrooper was Snoke because Snoke had that bad gash in his head. It's like at a certain point, the Snoke theories are just getting ridiculous. Like,
Oh, the Snoke theories got way out of hand,
yeah.
and nobody was right.
No, the guy who had the channel called Your Snoke Theory Sucks was actually correct about everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a guy with a channel, and his channel name was Your Snoke Theory Sucks, and he was he was the one saying that Snoke is not going to be anybody, guys. And then he turned out to be right. So, yeah, but you're right. Pretty much everybody was wrong on that one. We probably shouldn't have put so much thought into it, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I definitely had theories that I wanted to be correct.
Yeah. Oh,
and
dude.
Part of me still wishes they were correct.
Dude, those were the days, though. That was the time to be a Star Wars fan, though, because everybody was excited back then. Oh, boy. I miss those days. So, Return of the Jedi. Where were we? So they're on the ship. Chewie's too tall for it, and we're going down to Endor, one of my favorite Star Wars planets, easily, still to this day. I love everything that takes place on Endor for the most part. I mean, the speeder bikes are cool. Yeah, let's move into the speeder bike sequence. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, this is one of the things I specifically remember watching as a kid as well, and just loving this moment. When they crash and Luke's off there with the saber, just dodging fucking stormtrooper. I mean, the whole thing is amazing. Obviously, it's just like, how in the heck are they controlling these things going through a forest at this speed? But it's still pretty incredible.
I mean, and we were arguing the one time about who we thought was a better shot and a better driver, Chewie or Han. And I just thought, yeah, Chewie's definitely the better shot because he nailed that dude on the speeder. Dude starts flying away and he freaking nails the dude. I'm like, yeah, Chewie is the better shot.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Between those two, yeah, Chewie's definitely the better shot, I think. Yeah, and I'll give you that too, like, especially after seeing this moment. Yeah, it's because Chewie can, yeah. Him and that bowcaster thing, it's pretty cool, man.
Chewie's the muscle.
He is, man. He is. Yeah, this whole sequence is one of my favorites. Leia crashes off somewhere, who knows, and meets an Ewok. And how do you feel about the Ewoks?
Well, first of all, I was gonna say the whole speeder scene.
Oh yeah,
that is one of the scenes that I can't help but notice how weird the background looks going by.
Yeah.
Every single time I watch it, I'm like, man, that's so distracting. I know that they didn't have the technology, but good Lord, that's distracting. And another distracting thing that happened is there's a line that Luke says where he says something like, keep on that one, I'll take these two. And his line is out of sync. I think they dubbed it in post. I think they dubbed over his line. And there are a lot of those moments in Star Wars. This one was just an obvious one where if you watch, his mouth was saying a different line than what they actually dubbed over. But Star Wars, the original trilogy as a whole, there are several of those moments. You just always don't know because usually they choose to dub over when somebody is like facing this way and the camera's facing the back of their head. But if you pay attention on some scenes, you can see their jaws move doesn't match the line that they're saying. And I like, that's something that I've always hated when I notice in movies when they dub over lines and you can tell that it wasn't the original line.
Yeah.
It like drives me crazy.
Yeah, I thought I noticed a piece of odd ADR here too when I saw this, so it was interesting you brought that up. I wasn't going to say anything, but I definitely thought I noticed some dubbing that wasn't so good here.
I definitely noticed that.
Yeah.
Ewoks. Ewoks, there are a fine balance between ridiculously cute and terribly ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine line. They look very cute, and they're butterfaces. They look very cute until you look at their faces, and then you're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
I like Ewoks.
Me too.
They have a cool demeanor about them. I like their weird little dialogue that they have with each other.
Yeah.
It's like little snickers.
Yeah.
I really like Ewoks. Even though they're kind of ugly.
I feel like that How I Met Your Mother theory about if you were born before 93, you don't like Ewoks, but if you're born 93 and after, I think that's actually true, because it seems like all my friends that are older than me don't actually enjoy Ewoks. And all my friends that are younger than me love Ewoks, so I do feel like the How I Met Your Mother theory was true on that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so excuse me. So the yeah, I like the Ewoks. I always have. I still do till this day. I think it's interesting that they were supposed to be. It was kind of a lazy kind of sort of cop out, because they were supposed to be Ewoks, or I'm sorry, Wookiees initially. George was just gonna make this the Wookiee planet, but didn't work out, so he had to make them Ewoks. And
They ran out of fur, so they had to make them shorter.
yeah, pretty much.
Like, okay, these are all gonna be Wookiees. Sir, we don't have enough fur to make Wookiees. Damn
Yeah.
it. All right, make them 3 foot tall.
It was a budget thing. They had to make these guys something else, and so George couldn't think of anything, so he just name. So he just kind of threw out Ewok for it, and yeah, interesting.
He probably thought of that right off the top of his head.
I know.
Too.
Well, it's Wookiee with you just put the E at the top and take some letters off the end, and it's Ewok.
That's funny. Something else random that I just thought about is when Luke comes back.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back and they realize that Leia's still gone, and I just laugh because they've been on these speeders for a long time at this point, going God only knows how fast. I mean, they're going fast on these suckers. They've been going for miles, and Luke just like strolls in on his feet. I mean, he crashed his speeder. So he had to have walked or ran this whole time. And they've been going like 80 mile an hour on these speeders for miles. And he just like strolls up fine, like nothing happened. And I'm like, that dude just ran like 7 5Ks to get here.
Definitely. I like the I don't know. Oh, we're not even well, we're getting pretty close to that. When they get trapped, is this where they get trapped in the net?
It's pretty close, right?
Yeah, because I think Leia finds them trapped in the net, and then all the Ewoks come. Yeah, so Leia finds them trapped in the net.
Yeah.
All the Ewoks come up. I like that Luke is totally laughing at the fact that 3PO is... they all think he's like this god. Like, if you watch Mark Hamill's face expressions throughout this entire moment, they're hysterical.
I like a lot of 3PO moments in...
Me too.
In this movie, but like I like when he like looks at R2D2 at some point in this, and he's like, "And you said it was pretty here." Yeah. He's all salty about it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So let me think here. That is pretty funny. What's he say here though? He's like, personating a deity is against my programming, and then Han gets super fucking irritated with them, and Luke's like laughing at him the entire time. And then the Ewoks come up with their sticks, and they're all freaking out, and I'd be a little freaked out too, man. You got like 100 little guys around you with these sticks, like,
yeah,
not even a lightsaber could save you there, man. Like, you're fucked, my friend. So then they get captured, and oh, by the way, this is one of the funniest things in the world is when Han's on the fire and he's trying to blow it out with his I thought that stuff was really funny too.
Do you remember what was it? Was it the third one? Pirates of the Caribbean, when
it's 2. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the second
when
one,
when they're trying to light him, doesn't he do the same thing?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I remember that. That's right. Maybe they took that or inspiration from this movie there. I mean, yeah, because that's right. I forgot all about that.
Speaking of, I'd like to watch those movies again.
Oh yeah, I was just thinking about those not that long ago. To be honest,
I watched the first 3. Was it last year or maybe it was the year before? I don't know. I think I'm one of the crazy ones that thinks the first 3 movies are like phenomenal. Like, yeah. I love the first 3 pirate movies.
I think they're all good. The first 3 are good for sure.
I think
I
I
agree with
actually
you.
like the third one the best.
Really? Black
Yeah,
Pearl's still my favorite. Last I
there's just
checked.
something about the third one that I really like. I really like that dark vibe and all the weird stuff that's starting to happen. I
Yeah.
don't know, but that's a
Third one's
different
great to me.
conversation.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're all on 4K though right now on Disney Plus, so I've been really tempted to go back and watch them. Because I've never seen them in that 4K quality. Yeah, but Star Wars. So moving into the shit, what was it? Oh, we're on the thing. That's right. They're captured.
Yeah.
They're so
C-3PO is about to start floating.
yeah, I thought this stuff was really cleverly done. The way that Luke thought of this, I thought that was pretty cool. He can't impersonate a god, but Luke will do it for him. And I like that 3PO's up there going, put me down, and they all think that all the Ewoks start freaking out, thinking that he's the one doing it. It's pretty fun stuff. Then we get to the part we move into 3PO's telling the story about everything that's pretty much happened in the original trilogy to the Ewoks, just to get them on their side. I like all the sound effects that 3PO makes. I think that's kind of interesting that he can actually do that. It makes sense. He's a droid.
I like Han turn into Chewie and he says something like, short help is better than no help.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I like it when they finally get free and R2 chases them around and starts zapping them.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
I love everything. Like, if there are any characters in these movies that I don't really have issue with, that's R2-D2. R2-D2 can't do anything wrong in my eyes.
I can't argue with that. R2's awesome, man. Oh, and then I love here, too, when Han's making demands to 3PO. Well, find out if they have weapons. Okay. And then he's like, and find out how much supplies they have. You know, find out if they have any water.
He
Hurry up, I ain't got all day.
Out 2 words and then pulls them back.
Yeah. Hurry up, I ain't got all day. He's just doesn't even give the poor 3PO a chance to go say something. I loved it because it was just so Han Solo, you know.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it was awesome. Then, Luke is outside. That was one of the lines that I missed earlier that I really liked. Is Vader's on that ship. I shouldn't have come. I'm endangering the mission. I thought that line was really good. I liked how he just kind of sensed him there earlier, and then now he's gonna tell Leia everything, right? That Obi-Wan told him. So he tells her. This to me is one of the strongest moments in the entire movie. Obviously, is the conversation between Luke and Leia. Him telling her everything, and I don't think he actually definitively says that. Does he actually say here, "You're my sister," or does she just figure it out? I can't remember. I think he says, "You're my sister."
He tells her. I don't know how he words it, but he says that she's his sister.
Yeah, the line is the best. The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. Do you remember the Force Awakens trailer? How it started with that overlay?
Oh,
it was so cool. So cool.
Kills.
Man. That was amazing. But yeah, I love this line. And it was awesome in the Force Awakens trailer when they reused it. Yeah, so awesome.
When he tells her and then she says, "I know. Somehow I've always known." And I'm thinking, well, that just makes it even more weird that you decided to kiss.
You know what's even... Yeah, true. You know what's really weird is when he asks if she remembers her mother, and she says she does, and I'm thinking, do you?
Yes.
You do?
Really? Do you? And he's like, I don't have any memory of my mother.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you were born at the same time, so...
I mean, you could just chalk it up to she had dreams of her and, you know, Force things, and, you know, she's strong with the Force, so the family is, so, you know, you could chalk it down up to that, but really George just forgot about his own canon when he made that scene in Revenge of the Sith. I'm sure that's actually what happened. But,
oh, George.
Yeah, good old George. Anyway, so Luke is going to confront Vader. That was another line earlier that I wanted to nitpick a little bit, is because Yoda's telling Luke, not yet, you're not a Jedi, not till you confront Vader, and I would have been like, I kind of already did in the last fucking movie.
Yeah.
So gotta do it again, I guess. So
Yeah, because he's like, you're not really a Jedi until you confront Vader, and then he proceeds to get mad at him for confronting Vader the first time.
yeah, I know.
Like, okay, which one is it, buddy?
He confronted Vader, but he didn't pick up the dog tags. Kill confirmed. Anyway, so he that's what I think of. So he goes and he goes to confront Vader, and then he goes and sees him, and these are some of the better moments too in the movie. Is definitely the exchange between him and Vader. I like that Vader's fascinated by his lightsaber. He picks up his lightsaber and he's like, loves that he created a green lightsaber. Nice little father-son bonding moment.
Yeah, he had a little proud moment there for a second.
He did. I like that Vader tells him too, like, and this is one of the more interesting things. I think this is going to play into the Obi-Wan series. I really 100% do, is when he says, Obi-Wan once thought as you did, you know? And it's like, when did Obi-Wan think that way, really? I don't know. Like, I mean, because when Obi-Wan confronted him in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan was confronting him to kill him, pretty much. I don't think to turn him back to the light, but maybe that's what he was referring to. Who knows? I think it's going to play into the Obi-Wan series.
I would like to think so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Oh.
I know, I'm like most excited for that. If things, well, Mandalorian season 2 could be pretty cool, but I don't know.
Obi-Wan? Yeah, that's what, October 20th? That's getting soon.
That's a few weeks from now, the 30th, October 30th, but yeah, a few weeks from now. Anyway, so he takes him to the Emperor. Then we're also, this is being intercut with the Battle of Endor as well. I don't know. I mean, it's weird to me that the Ewoks were able to cause as much damage during this thing that they were. Because I mean, you got Ewoks hijacking AT-ATs and shit. It's just like, holy fuck. But okay, here we go.
They're just so small, and there's so many of them. They're like ants.
Yeah.
Little furry ants with ugly noses.
It's just wild to me. I know there were other parts of Endor where rebels were there and fighting, but it's odd to me that like the Ewoks were the army around this area. And
I think it's funny. I really like the scenes with the Ewoks. I think it's hilarious.
Oh, I like them. Don't get me wrong. Like I like the Ewoks. I'm just okay.
Like this is one of those times where I'm like, yeah, Star Wars, it never really makes too much logical sense. So I'm not gonna read into this. I think it's funny.
It's true. It is funny. We should review those 2 Ewok movies. I don't know. We'll have to think about that.
Oh no.
You're just no. We're not watching those.
And the Christmas special.
Oh boy, that's a whole other thing.
I don't want to watch that again.
No, man, me either. It's a task. It's definitely a task. But anyway, make for a great podcast, but it's a task to watch. But let's move into the Battle of Endor is going on. It's Ewoks fighting a ton of people. But the one thing I wanted to get to is the space battle, and this is one of those times where I felt like a lot of the special effects, even though they look very dated, yes, they were actually warranted, because like I understand why they use special effects in these moments. They're like the big, for the time, highfalutin special effects in these moments, because a lot of the stuff is really, really cool, and I can imagine it was warranted. There was a lot going on here, and it's one of the coolest space battles, like I think of in all the Star Wars movies for sure. Like I rank this one way up there. I mean, this one's got so much, man. I mean, Lando flying the ship, man, is awesome with him and Nien Nunb in the Falcon is just such a cool thing. I like Admiral Akbar commanding the fleet. You know, I like oh my gosh, when that A-Wing goes spinning into the Star Destroyer, that is so fucking cool.
We get a lot of cool stuff in that scene.
It's amazing.
We get like 3 of the most iconic Star Wars lines like within like 5 minutes. Like you get "you rebel scum."
Yeah.
You get that. You get "it's a trap," and then you get Come on, Han, old buddy.
Yeah. All the times that Lando says Han in this moment, it's all pretty great.
Han, old buddy. And then
Um,
you've got the Emperor explaining his plan to Luke, and he's got his classic
oh
line.
yeah,
And I'm afraid the deflector shield will be quite
I know.
operational.
I love
The
that.
the way he says it
I
is
know
just so perfect.
it
He's like
is.
trolling him so hard.
God damn, Ian McDermott's good in these movies. Like he always
He
was,
is. He
and
really
he
is.
really kills, man. It's like over the top, but right where it needs to be. You know, at the
Yeah.
same time, like oh my god, yeah, everything with Ian McDermott is yeah. He's like I don't know. He plays like sarcastically scared right there. Oh, I'm afraid that the, but it's so good. Like it is so good. It's one of the better moments in this whole movie, man. Oh my gosh. Vader and I mean, yeah, him explaining that plan to Luke is so good, and him trying to everything going on here. I mean, him trying to get the dark side out of Luke essentially, and
I
Vader
love
chiming into
everything
that.
about that scene with Luke and Vader and the Emperor.
Yeah,
I
let's get.
mean,
We got to get into that though, like because to me it's the best moment in the whole movie is when Vader goes, and sister, what about your sister? If he won't turn, then maybe she will. And then Luke coming out with the rage, man, and just like,
dude,
oh my gosh, this
he
is
goes
one
ham.
incredible moment. And the score, John Williams' score going on
Oh
behind there,
yes,
it's
I made a
epic,
note
dude.
of that too. So good.
It's epic, man. Like everything happening right here is just
This
amazing.
is, and this scene really from this point of the movie onward is like the reason why I like this movie so much. Um, and I've we hit briefly how there are different categories in which you grade movies.
Yeah,
And to me, this movie is just, to me, I have the most fun watching this movie. Despite
yeah.
all any issues that it might have, I actually have the most fun watching this movie because there's just a lot of fun stuff that happens. There are fun creatures, there are fun planets and places. There's a lot of fun battles happening, and then you get the crap at the end. You get kind of the resolution to the trilogy
Mhm.
when you get freaking Luke going ham on Vader, and you get some of the coolest lightsaber moves of the trilogy, and just the conflict between it and the conflict inside Vader, and everything about it is terrific, and it's probably my favorite section of Star Wars in general, just because I mean it is special. It is a resolution to the story. It's very epic. It's big, but also, um, like I said, this as a kid, this was the Star Wars movie that impacted me the most, that made me a Star Wars fan.
Mm.
It was Return of the Jedi, is the one I watched the most as a child. Because I very vividly remember watching this scene where Luke has that inner struggle between good and bad, and then Vader has the struggle between good and bad, and then turning Vader over. As a kid, that's very influential because you understand that as a child.
Mhm.
You get what's happening, and it seemed so epic. So this is one of those scenes that it's almost like when you hear a song that transports you back in time and makes you think of an old memory, or you taste something you haven't tasted in a long time and it like catapults you back to your childhood. These final scenes do that for me. They make me think of when I lived in Colorado when I was about 4 or 5 years old. They
Mhm.
make me think of my mom had she worked at this hair salon, and she used to bring me to work, and this a girl she worked with brought her daughter in, and we popped Star Wars in one time because they had a TV in one of the rooms. And I remember we had some toys and some action figures and stuff. And this is one of those moments that I forget about until I watch it, and then it sends me back. So that's part of my unbiased or my biased reasoning for liking this movie so much, because I have the most memory tied up to it.
Yeah, see, hearing you talk about it, it makes me appreciate the movie more for sure, because it's like, I did like this movie the most for a while there when I was a kid of the three, but like I don't have the attachment to it. Like when I'm older and I'm thinking back, the first movie I ever remember watching is A New Hope. Empire to me just speaks more to me as an adult. And I have problems with this movie, but like I don't have that like big connection with it. Like I said, and even as a kid, I remember watching this one the least, but always considering it my favorite for some reason. So hearing you talk about it that way can help me appreciate that a lot more. And like I understand the thing of the conclusion, and I'll tell you this too. Hands down, the third and final act of this film is the best third and final act of all three of them. But and I'll give you that. But I just don't like the first two acts as much as I like the first two acts of the prior two, and I guess that's my bigger issue. But in terms of cohesiveness and how it wraps up a trilogy, this movie has all that, and I think it's very strong with that. Like it's incredible how they ended up kind of bringing it all together by the end of this thing here, and it just, especially when we're starting out in the beginning of a movie that to me felt like there was no end in sight, but we somehow kind of went from that to, we weaved into an ending that actually made sense for the prior two, for this trilogy anyway. And so I really enjoyed that. So yeah. And by the way, and Mark Hamill, this is one of those times where you can say he was given one fantastic performance just in the rage areas, and he was really bringing it. And God damn, I love it. It gives me goosebumps even just talking about this moment, because it's one of my favorites in the whole thing. And then finally, Vader just gives in, man, and he takes the Emperor and he throws him over. How he lived through that, we will never know. But he throws him over, and
I would like to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like a big like electric explosion that goes up the shaft. It seems very final, but
contingency, man. The dark side is a pathway to a great many things. Is that the line that he ends up using? I don't know. I'll have to go back. The dark side is a pathway to many abilities that some would consider to be unnatural. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's something else, man. But he goes down the shaft, and I always get like a lot of sadness, man, when you hear Vader struggling with the breathing here. Like it just makes me so sad. Like I don't know why. It's like this guy's slaughtered like hundreds of children, but and it's still just the way that they had him breathing, and he sounded so weak in the moment, man. And it's just like, oh my gosh,
that's one of those memories that I remember from being a kid, is watching and just feeling so bad for him. Even though you know all the stuff that he did, but in that moment you're like, but he did the right thing in the end. In the end, he did the right thing, and you can see it in his eyes that he's really a good person, and it's in there, and you finally have that transition back to the light, and it's like it's too late because he's dying, and it's a very sad moment.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was something about the way they lit or shot the helmet too, but like even in the helmet, for some reason I'm looking at this helmet and it looks just like a sad man all of a sudden, even in the helmet, and I don't know why that is. You know what I mean? Like I
think it's just his body language in general.
It's coming through the mask for sure, man, and he's but just hearing him, breathe all week, and I'm definitely I get emotional when I watch it now about this, and it's a wild scene to me. But so Luke carries him over, and at the same time they're getting ready to blow this fucker up, and so they're successful in that, and Luke is, when Vader takes off the helmet, man, that's one of those moments that just sticks with you, even from when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like I definitely always remember that scene. That's one of the more memorable scenes, is Vader taking off, his helmet. Tell your sister.
Oh, it was huge.
Yeah,
it was a big deal.
Yeah, it was, man. It was cool to see
because
when you were a kid.
watching A New Hope and then Empire. for the first time as a kid, you know, you don't know everything about the past and all that. You just know what you're watching now,
Yeah.
and you don't know what Vader looks like underneath there. So as a kid,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, they're
Yeah.
taking off his mask.
Exactly. Exactly. For sure. Yeah, he's all burnt up and scarred up, and it's yeah, I mean it's a sad moment. It's a really sad
He
moment.
looks like Humpty Dumpty.
He does look like Humpty Dumpty. I'll give you that one.
He's got an egghead.
Poor bastard. So they he's got an egghead and a colostomy bag.
How unfortunate.
From being burnt up, man.
Man.
Yeah,
It's all the sulfur, man. It made him smell like eggs. Just turned him into an egg.
he's probably got a wop now too, I would imagine, after being burnt.
Yeah.
Anyway, poor man. So they take him to this. I mean, even from just moving, you know, from this scene and you know, watching him getting burnt. I like how, you know, the scene of Vader getting burnt is almost very parallel to watching Qui-Gon getting burnt too, in A New Hope in a way. It looks like it's in similar settings anyway, and yeah, I find this stuff to be very sad. And why do we gotta burn everybody though? Like, I never understood that in Star Wars land. Somebody dies, we burn the shit out of them. I mean, there's no burials. In Star
it's
Wars.
just cremation. I don't know. I've always thought in real life, I always thought it was kind of weird that we bury people. Like, we've got all this wasted real estate from they're literally bodies that we stuff so that they don't decompose, which is the natural thing they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you put them in fancy boxes, which also don't decompose. It's very weird. It's very strange.
As
I
we
think
talked
burning
about
might be the way to go.
As we talked about in the New Hope review, they're very efficient when it comes to real estate in the Star Wars world. So it's yeah. So that's probably it. Anyway, so we're going. Luke just burns Vader, and then we're celebrating. Oh, I forgot about the great moment where Leia tells Han, you know, that she loves him too. Oh, and by the way, like, them seeing like the Death Star exploding too, that's all pretty cool from Endor and all that. And then she tells Han that she loves Luke, and then I like Han getting all upset, and she's like, no, not like that, he's my brother. And even Han had to think about that, because he's thinking back to that kiss too. Like,
He's like, what?
Your brother. You can tell from his face expression. We're going to talk about that later.
Oh yeah, we're gonna discuss this. We're gonna unpack this later. Oh, I also forgot to mention earlier when Han tells her I love you, and she says I know. I like that.
Oh yeah, that's
when
right.
She gets shot. Yeah,
that's right. I forgot about that too. Yeah, that was a really nice callback to Empire. I forgot all about that. Glad you paid attention to this movie. I was dead tired, man, when I was watching this last night. I won't lie to you. I'll tell you, my mood probably had an effect on how I enjoyed this, to be honest with you. Really woke up there at the third and final act for sure, but especially when all the Vader stuff went down. But whew, I was tired. Anyway, so now we're celebrating on Ewok. I don't care how much people make fun of the music that George added to the end of this. I love it. It makes me so happy. I know that the scene is the scene, and we can sit there and give it shit all we want, but it's happy. It's a victory, you know, and the original music was...
I think the celebration scene in this movie makes more sense than the one at the end of A New Hope.
Yeah, me too.
I have never really liked the one at the end of A New Hope. I thought, there's no reason for this.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right.
It was premature.
I get what you're saying, but yeah.
It was premature. Now they have a real reason to celebrate. It's okay to celebrate now.
Yeah, and they're all dancing with the Ewoks, and they're having a good time. It's cheesy, but I get it.
You got the Force Ghosts. The Force Ghosts are in on the action, having a few beers.
Yeah, it's cool. I like
Anakin's
it.
gonna get wasted and probably
Yeah.
go crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand like why people make fun of the music here though. Like I don't know because I actually think it's a really nice vibe that it gives off. Like it's a happy vibe. Like, um,
It's just a stark contrast to what the rest of the score is, I guess, is probably why. I mean, it's very different.
yeah, but if you watch the original cut of Return of the Jedi, the music is just literally it just sounds like drumming going on in the background. It's no music to it. It's just it's like this is it. But I love this. I like this is one of those additions that George did that I was really happy with. And I like that Hayden Christensen shows up at the end. I think that's a cool addition as well. I thought that was
I
another really
remember there
awesome
being
one.
a lot of people that had issues with that when that happened.
I think it makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna
I
go
think
with
it
the
makes sense.
if you're gonna go with Obi-Wan's theory of Anakin really died when he became Darth Vader, then he would take that form. To me,
Right.
but, yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, but that is the end of the movie. Anything else you want to say about it?
Um, well, I'll say this in closing the original trilogy. In my personal opinion, how I think about these three movies, after watching them again and paying a lot of attention to them, I think A New Hope, after watching it again, is there's something special about A New Hope. I really love how they introduced the characters and how they built this world. There were no pacing issues. It felt very fluid. It felt very on purpose. It felt very artful. It felt artistic. For that reason, I think that A New Hope is the most quality film. To me, I think it's very quality. It really doesn't have any pacing issues or anything to me, and it builds the worlds and the characters and the chemistry between characters phenomenally and gives us a lot of funny, memorable moments. And and then Return of the Jedi, I personally think is the most entertaining to watch just because there's so much happening and you have the close to the trilogy with your first real emotional moment, with Vader coming back to the light side and passing, and you get the emotion of Luke and the cool fight scenes. And so I think, despite its flaws, I think Return of the Jedi is the most fun for me to watch. And Empire is like a blend of the two. Empire, which is probably why it's a lot of people's favorite movie, because it takes elements of both of them in that uh, it does remain an entertaining movie to watch, and it still paces itself fairly well, and it has a lot of art about it. It's like the best of both worlds kind of thing, where I previously thought A New Hope was a little boring, but structurally phenomenal. And Return of the Jedi was very exciting, but kind of lacked in the technical areas. And Empire is kind of like just an all around well rounded movie. So I think there are elements each movie has that other ones miss a little bit on, and they kind of feed off of each other and they make this trilogy, which is iconic.
Yeah, very well said. I appreciate that sentiment a lot. I mean, I think that that is probably why I like Empire the most myself, is because like you said, it is the best of both worlds. It just feels very balanced of the two different types of movies, which I feel are very different in tone and very different in style and feel, and Empire just kind of takes both those elements and puts it all into one, and I think it's very well balanced. And yeah, that's definitely why Empire is my personal favorite, and I do find personally Empire to be the more entertaining movie. That's my personal opinion. Like I said, the third act and final act of Return of the Jedi, definitely more epic, just within a vacuum, it's definitely the more epic one, for sure. But as a overall, I just like the balance of that Return of the Jedi gives of action and, moments to breathe and things of that nature. But A New Hope to me is still, It's the first film I ever remember watching. It's not my favorite of the three, but it's one that I can continuously go back to. And same with Empire, I can watch it over and over and over again. And I probably will make Return of the Jedi a regular thing to put on after I watch Empire Strikes Back again, because I do feel like maybe I need to watch this one more and, feel it out more, in my life. And I feel like this is Return of the Jedi is one I just haven't done that with. In closing, though, it's been awesome talking with Adam about the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. That was a lot of fun, too. And, of course, we're going to be moving into the sequel trilogy on next Saturday, so that's going to be something, man. I mean,
I'm excited.
What makes it so exciting is, like, we vividly remember going to see those in the theater. We can associate those movies with a certain time period in our lives, and and what it meant to us in the moment, as to where, like, I remember the moment of watching New Hope, but not like vividly. You know what I mean? Like these, we can really remember the moments sitting down in the
There was
theaters and watching
something
these. And
so incredibly special about when The Force Awakens came out.
mm-hmm.
For a moment, everybody was on the same page. For just a moment.
For a moment, yeah.
We were all going to see this movie. We were all wondering what it was going to be like, what they were going to do. People had theories, and I got a group of friends together, and we went and saw the movie together, and our jaws were dropped the whole time. All the old characters coming back for the first time in years. There was a lady behind me who had seen the original in theaters, and it was a big part of her life. She loved them.
Yeah.
She didn't even watch the prequels, so she hadn't seen a Star Wars movie since she watched them in theaters years ago. She actually cried during that movie because she loved Star Wars so much, and she was so happy to see these familiar faces and these familiar stories.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason why I feel like I love the sequel so much, because I remember seeing people and talking to people in the theater
mm-hmm.
that felt like that. People older than me, that Star Wars was even more special
mm-hmm.
to them, and they were very emotional about it. And it makes you realize just how special Star Wars is. As dumb as it is to feel that way about a movie that isn't real, I mean, it impacts people's lives, and it gives people memories and emotions and everything. And I think there is merit to everybody's opinion on however you feel. If you love the original trilogy the most, if you somehow like the prequel trilogy the most, if you like the sequel trilogy the most, I think there's merit to all of it, because
mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, Star Wars, we have all watched it at different times in our lives, and we associate it with different memories and different emotions, and they all mean something a little different to each of us. Therefore, all of us have different opinions. But at the end of the day, we're all Star Wars fans.
Yeah, and this is something else I was thinking too. Like, it's nothing to do with the movies themselves, but I feel like, for myself, going in to do in-depth reviews on all the sequels, I definitely feel like I might even have to watch each of them twice before doing it, because it's like we haven't seen them as much, because it's like with the originals and the prequels, it's easy because we've seen them umpteen times, in our lives, and with the sequels, we've only seen them so many times because they're newer. So I feel like, personally, I might even watch each of these twice just to prep for the review and to analyze every little thing, so that way we can really have a good grasp on what's going to be happening.
I might have to, because I think I saw number 7 at least 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw number 8 maybe twice, and the last one I haven't seen since watching it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have to revisit them a couple times, but I hope that I still enjoy them. I have no shame in saying that I loved the sequels. There's a lot that I like about them. There's always something that you can change about movies, to be fair. There's a lot I would change about the prequels. There's even stuff that I would change about the originals.
Yeah.
So there's definitely going to be some stuff that I would change about the sequels, but I freaking enjoyed them. They were a lot of fun. It was fun to see your favorite characters back on the screen and the story continuing in a new way. It was just very exciting, and I'm sad that isn't happening right now.
Yeah.
Like, just waiting for the next movie in the saga was just so like biting your nails, wondering what's going to happen next.
It was,
I
man.
miss that so much.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. I cannot wait to talk about the sequels next Saturday with Adam, and yeah, I think we're I think it's going to be exciting cuz these are, I don't know. Like I said, it's more exciting because we can associate them with something, and we vividly remember the memories of going to see them, and it's gonna be awesome, guys. All right, so let's wrap this up. Adam, it's been fun to talk about the original trilogy with you. Thank you for joining me as always. And yeah, next week starting the sequel trilogy once again. I've been Don Martino. This has been Adam Leach. Oh, by the way, don't forget to check out the podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music. It's on all that now. Also, like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave some feedback in the comment section. Always helps out, as long as it's constructive. And share this with your friends, most importantly. Well, I don't need anybody yelling at me or putting porno links in the comments. That's never fun, but it happens. It just doesn't help your case if you do that. But so anyway, so yeah, definitely do that. And yeah, we will see you guys next week. I'll see you on Wednesday. Adam and I will see you here again on Saturday. Thanks, guys. See you later.